Are you ready to have some fun? On Sunday, September 17th, Venus will square Jupiter for the third and final time, offering us some relief from the retrograde, good feelings, joy, and cheer. At the same time, if you're not careful, your desires can easily take you too far and get out of control, so moderation is required. Let's take a closer look and break this transit down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you'd like to work with me, there are links down below. I am currently running a Virgo season special, meaning every Virgo sun gets 20% off natal, which are more general, and solar return readings, which are more predictive. Coupon codes are down there, and it only lasts during Virgo season, so take advantage. Treat yourself to a reading with me. If you like this channel, don't forget to like or comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. You can also buy me a coffee if you feel so inclined, as a way of saying thank you. So we have Venus squaring Jupiter. We already had Venus square Jupiter in mid-June and then again in late August. So it could be useful to look back and see whether the themes I'm going to talk about today were brought up for you. It's an important square because Venus has stationed direct on September 3rd, pretty much in a square to Jupiter, right? Like the square to Jupiter has been in effect between August 22nd and now until September 17th. It's most precise and most exact and the strongest for about 3 days before, 3 days after, so between September 14th and September 20th. But Jupiter will allow us, Jupiter being the planet of abundance and growth when it comes to Venusian topics, being that we are fresh out of the retrograde, Jupiter has the power to shine the light, to offer solutions, right? Like Jupiter is the planet of coherence, it's the planet of larger meaning. So when Venus meets Jupiter, they're both benefic planets. So Jupiter will try to, like I said, offer guidance, offer answers. The difficulty lies in a square aspect. Whenever two planets are in a square, it means that there's a little bit of a tension between them. And when you have two positive by nature planets in a tense aspect, it's like how much of a good thing is too much of a good thing, right? Or how kind of like your willingness to say yes to things can sometimes be costly for you. So Jupiter will offer guidance, answers, solutions, but at times it could take you too far. It could mean that you're overspending. It could mean that your taste is a little bit too expensive, right? This could be like you're looking to travel and you get, you see this deal, but the deal is for business class flight and it's like luxurious, but it's really expensive. So it's a good time, but it's a costly good time. So that's it's kind of like the biggest watch out type thing in this transit. On the positive, it's a great time for enjoying yourself. It's a great transit for socializing, for networking, for meeting people, for reaching out to people. Like I said, you're not likely to be very attentive to the little things. So smaller details can slip through, can sort of slip past you. So that's another area where I'd recommend you be careful and maybe think twice before agreeing to things, because the danger here is just like, yes, I can do it. You know, that attitude of like, I can handle it all, give me more. So the problems can definitely arise from either needing to pay attention to details or needing to be discerning. So being kind of careful, practicing moderation, once again, is really important here. Watch out for overindulging. Very easy to just, you want good time, Jupiter is ready to provide. Another potential challenge here is poor judgment, kind of loose morals. Where once again, like Venus desires something, like let's say you are in a committed relationship and you see someone and you feel attracted to them, And instead of, let's say it was like Venus Saturn, right? Saturn would be like, nah, you're committed, you're serious, you have your partner, right? Don't do this. Jupiter could be like, why not? It's fun. Let's have a good time. So once again, be careful of like lowering your standards, going after people, kind of making mistakes when it comes to dating, being just like too jolly. But like if you are by nature someone very kind of careful and strict with yourself, this could be your opportunity to let your hair down and have fun, right? And perhaps find some joy after the difficult retrograde. So let's take a look at the 12 rising signs and give you some kind of ideas on things to watch for or things to do during this transit. So if you are an Aries rising, Venus in your 5th house is going to square Jupiter in the 2nd house. And immediately I see this as like, if we're talking about square and the more like challenging aspect of this, I see this as like maybe overspending on partying, overspending on your partner, just sort of being like very generous and very like, you know, giving. So watch out for that. Be careful also because Venus in the 5th house and a square to Jupiter in the 2nd can be very grand and can definitely go for things that maybe are expensive, but they're not kind of necessary for you. So you really need to exercise some careful thinking. Venus has been retrograde in your 5th house ever since July 22nd, so for about 6 weeks. And you may have been reevaluating your relationship with pleasure, right? There could have been a sense of needing to maybe have more fun or needing to get more organized in a way you have fun. Because here we have the house of pleasure, joy, romance connected to the house of money and values, right? And when it comes to money, this transit can bring you an opportunity to make money from a creative project or take your hobbies to the next level and turn them into business. So it could be financially beneficial. There could be some kind of bonus, some kind of return on the things you find joyful, but it's also, 2nd is also the house of values. So on some level, your values shifting around pleasure, your values shifting around romance, and maybe as your values shift, there is more opportunities for dating. There's more opportunities for becoming a parent. There's more, maybe, yeah, like financially, you know, like investing into like IVF or investing into becoming a father or a mother. I can see as some of the things here. And take a look back at those two at the same aspect when we had it in mid-June and late August. Did any of those themes come up for you? And please let me know down there. So if you are a Taurus rising, we have Venus in the 4th house and a square to Jupiter in the 1st. And there's a little bit of friction between who you are at your core and perhaps your family or your living situation or your childhood, right? This is interesting. Venus being retrograde in your 4th house for Taurus risings, and I use whole sign house system, right? So it's the 4th house for you. Could have brought up questions, could have also like kind of made you reevaluate your relationship with family and reevaluate your past in terms of what kind of beliefs you have or what kind of, you know, you're a Taurus rising, you are ruled by Venus. So Venus going in the 4th house, which is a very foundational place, feels very introspective, very sort of private in a lot of ways. So you could have been in this period of questioning, right? What is yours and truthful and real versus what has been inherited? Where are you still kind of plugged in family patterns and family karma? And perhaps this feels like very opening, kind of eye-opening, but also like expanding in terms of your personality, especially the square to Jupiter. So definitely can see some kind of shifts around familial dynamics. Perhaps you decide to say no to something, or maybe instead you take a different role within your family and you become like this like patriarch and someone who's in charge in the family. So As mentioned before, watch out for like overspending, being overly generous, because maybe then you feel frustrated because it's not reciprocated. If, let's say, you have a sibling that you tend to treat very generously and you feel like they're abusing that generosity. I can also wonder if you are perhaps reconfiguring your home and maybe making changes, like adding on. Let's say you're doing something that is good for you, right? Like you're adding a room where you can paint, or you're adding gym. So something, because with Jupiter in your first house, there's a lot of like inner transformation and growth. And so not only you are looking at the past and you're looking at your innate habits and patterns, but you're also perhaps changing your environment in order to match that inner shift. And let me know what has been happening in your life in mid-June, late August, when we had this aspect before, in the comments down below, as well as let me know how this resonates. If you are a Gemini rising, Venus is in your third house, about to square Jupiter in the 12th house. So Venus has been retrograde in your third house from late July until early September. Third house deals with communication. It deals with your message, your something that you want to share with the world, something you want to express to the world, right? And maybe there were some frustrations there, a sense of delays and struggling to find the right way to express what you want to say. Maybe there have been delays with writing projects, or delays and frustrations when it comes to your skills, your hobbies, your everyday life, even relationships with siblings. There could have been some kind of tension. So now we get the square to Jupiter in the 12th house, and this Jupiter in the 12th could be literally like a therapist that gives you tools to handle things differently. It gives the therapist suggests to you how to communicate with your loved ones, and you approach things differently. You start to be more honest, right? Could be very like eye-opening period in terms of like your subconscious and bringing things into the open, maybe having important conversations and feeling like you can be truly yourself. Releasing fears, I can see this as well, right? Like releasing fears, as well as, because Jupiter in the 12th house is shining light on the shadows. It's shining light on your self-defeating tendencies. So perhaps you're getting a chance to improve your everyday life to avoid some of those self-defeating tendencies. Talk to yourself differently, start meditating, start doing yoga, exercising. There's possibilities of bringing some positive habits into your everyday life, as well as bringing the imaginative side of the 12th house, bringing the spiritual side of the 12th house, the healing side of the 12th house, and turning that into your everyday life, where third house represents business. So maybe you're taking your love for yoga and turning that into side business potentially. Let me know how this resonates. Do you feel like Venus retrograde in your third house for the last few months, not few months, 6 weeks, right? Starting late July until early September. Has that been eye-opening for you? What has changed in your life? Let's chat. If you are a Cancer rising, Venus in your second house is about to square Jupiter in the 11th house. Let me know how this went in mid-June and then again in late August, when we had the same aspect happen, first direct, then retrograde, and this is the final time it happens direct, at least this year. So Venus has been in your second house, meaning you have potentially been looking at the questions of money and perhaps wondering how to make money, or what are the valid good sources of finances are in your life. There could also have been a lot of shifts in terms of desires, in terms of self-awareness, self-understanding, self-worth, right? Because second house is very much the house of its resources, but resources are a lot of times based on what you think you deserve. So with Venus being retrograde here for the last 6 weeks, there could have been maybe questioning of what you deserve and what is important to you, right? And now with the square to Jupiter, perhaps your sense of self-worth is bringing some opportunities, new friendships, new networks, new dreams into your life, right? There might be a chance to make money through a friendship, a chance to join forces with somebody, to start a blog, to reach a larger audience, I think, as well as change your friendships, right? Like maybe your self-worth getting a boost is allowing you to communicate more openly and honestly, and improves your relationships in the process. Opportunities to improve your career are possible here. I can see maybe like a connection bringing you a job opportunity, right, is likely. But watch out, of course, with the square aspect being a little bit tense. There might also be kind of friendship drama, a tendency to either take things too personally or give up too easily on a friend potentially, or just get into a relationship that maybe requires too much of you, but you don't realize initially. So be careful and read the fine print. And let me know how this resonates down below. If you are a Leo rising, I'm quite excited for this transit for you. Venus in your first house is about to square Jupiter in your 10th house. So you are a Leo rising. Venus has been retrograde in your first house for the last 6 weeks. I guess at this point, it's not the last 6 weeks, but between late July and early September. How has that affected you? Venus retrograde in the first house could have been a period where you have been rethinking who you are, right? Maybe you've been rethinking who you are because you got a new job or you've been applying for a job. Maybe there's been changes in your love life where you started dating someone, or you realize that your preferences in love are no longer the same, right? There could have been a sense of shift. Maybe you realize as a woman that you're attracted to women and going through some kind of inner transformation. There could have been changes connected to your health, to your style, to your image, personality. And as a result, now as Venus squares Jupiter, these changes are affecting your career as well, because career, but also 10th house represents status, reputation, and your image in the world, right? Not everybody has like a career. But I think the inner shifts you've been going through are translating into your visible kind of sector in your life. So some of you can be changing your career. Some of you can be transforming what you want in the world, right? Like starting to show up differently. But it's interesting because later in the month, we're also going to have Venus in a square to Uranus, which is as well a repeat of aspects from the past. And I wonder for some of you if there are big professional changes coming up, or relational changes as well. And let me know how this aspect played out in mid-June and late August when we had it before, as well as share about your retrograde experience. If you are a Virgo rising, Venus in the 12th house is about to square Jupiter in your 9th house. And I feel like for Virgo risings, this is a sign of a big mindset shift. Venus has been retrograde from late July until early September in your 12th house. 12th house is the dark house, right? It includes everything you are not facing, or everything you are choosing to ignore sometimes, all of your self-defeating tendencies, all of the subconscious kind of matters that maybe they have demanded some attention for a while. And so during the retrograde for 6 weeks, you could have been examining how you are compromising your identity, how you are putting yourself second in your relationships. For example, do you tend to, as a Virgo rising with Pisces as your 7th house, do you tend to sacrifice your needs? Do you tend to be too idealistic in relationships? Do you tend to not speak up, right? So Venus could have brought up a lot of truth, and it made you review some of your desires and review some of your habits around relationships. And now as Venus squares Jupiter in the 9th house, this is like, it's quite liberating. It's quite eye-opening. Like I said, I can see this as an attitude shift around love, as an attitude shift around your life philosophy. Maybe you're sort of starting to realize that you are the hero of the story, and it's up to you to decide who you date or where you are. Jupiter in the ninth can offer a chance to write, and maybe you're bringing some of your experiences into the world in that shape. Can also bring opportunities to travel, maybe even date someone foreign. But I think, like, I definitely feel this as quite a philosophical time where you're just starting to look at your desires differently, and you're starting to look at your role in the world differently. And let me know how this transit went for you in mid-June and late August when we had it happen prior, and also how has the retrograde period been. I hope you've learned a lot. If you are a Libra rising, Venus in your 11th house is going to square Jupiter in your 8th house. And we've already had this transit in mid-June and late August. How has it been for you? What has been going on? Venus has been retrograding in your 11th house, which potentially made you rethink your role in the collective. Your friendships could have been shaken up and stirred up a little bit during the retrograde. Maybe you've been questioning what your place is, right? Where do you belong? 11th house is the place of the group. So when Venus is retrograding here, you're wondering which group you belong with, what your role in the group is what your dreams are, what your kind of relationship with social media is. And now that Venus is direct, you're finally, hopefully, and let me know how it feels, but finally you're getting some answers, I think, in that part of your life. And as Venus squares Jupiter in the 8th house, this is exciting. Of course, gotta be careful because it's a square and there's always a tendency to maybe like overspend, overcommit. But somehow you're exploring friendships, you're exploring partnerships that can be beneficial to you, either in terms of resources or in terms of opportunities or in terms of joining forces with other people. You may be getting a chance to get a loan, like a small business loan, or you're getting into a partnership with a friend who can sponsor your business potentially. So there is interesting resources that can be coming your way. But of course, like I said, a square can be challenging in terms of getting entangled with someone, getting like having to compromise something, having to sacrifice something. So watch out for saying yes to too many things, and keep in mind your true values before you say yes to things. And let me know how this resonates in the comments below. If you are a Scorpio rising, Venus in your 10th house is about to square Jupiter in your 7th house. And here we are connecting the house of career, status, reputation, aspirations in the outside world with the house of relationships, partnerships, right? So could it be that you are joining forces with somebody? Could it be that you are turning a romantic relationship into a professional partnership, right? Like I can see this as starting a business with your spouse or somebody you are romantically involved with. There could also be the shadow side of this, could be sleeping with someone to get a promotion, for example, because Venus in the 10th house might want to have a job that is enjoyable, and Jupiter in the 7th could be like, yeah, you know, this guy knows your boss and can help you get it. So stay high-minded, right? And watch out for the road you're taking towards your dream, right? Don't do something that's going to compromise your morals. There might be some tension as well between your dreams for yourself and desires for your career and your relationship, where perhaps you are pregnant or your partner is really kind of ready to have children, but you are not on the same page. So you are sort of going through a need to adjust and figuring out how your career might change and how you might be able to do both. And I can potentially see this as you encountering people who are helpful to you, and they don't have to be helpful only professionally, but they can definitely be eye-opening and sort of life-changing, exciting encounters, right? Like meeting people you admire, meeting people who are professionally important to you. And let me know what has been going on in your professional sector since Venus went retrograde in late July and until early September. Are you changing careers? Are you kind of growing when it comes to your relationships? Are you entering new partnerships? What's going on, Scorpio rising? If you are a Sagittarius rising, Venus in your 9th house is about to square Jupiter in the 6th house. We already had Venus square Jupiter on June 11th and then again on August 22nd. So take a look. Let me know what was happening in your life at that point, because that is coming back again. Venus in the 9th house is interested in expanding her vision, expanding your life to encompass more adventures. There might be traveling plans. There might be education you're considering pursuing. There might be writing or somehow crystallizing your knowledge in the form of a presentation. You're opening up your knowledge, you're opening up your world, you're opening up to include more, right? The square to Jupiter can offer you a labor. I think the square to Jupiter is going to say like, here's this giant project, but you're going to enjoy it, right? It's like square is tense, so perhaps you are a little bit doubtful whether you have the energy or whether it's the right fit, but Jupiter is optimism and Jupiter is good luck. So I think this to me feels like a chance to travel for work, or a chance to study, or a chance to present your work in some shape, right? Like committing to something that will be hard, that will be challenging, but also will be enjoyable. As well as somehow tying the house of like problem solving with the house of education. Perhaps you're learning how to problem solve, right? With the house of travel, maybe you're also kind of making travel arrangements for yourself. Or becoming a teacher, becoming someone who is influencing other people and sharing your knowledge. And let me know how this resonates in the comments below. If you are a Capricorn rising, Venus in the 8th house is going to square Jupiter in the 5th house. And here we are connecting the house of money, values, other people's resources with the house of romance, creativity, and children. And so it feels like, you know, Venus has been retrograde in your 8th house for the last, basically from late July until early September. And you may have been reviewing your agreements with other people. You may have been reviewing your connections, your desires, and sort of questioning fairness in your relationships. Maybe paying off some debt, maybe rethinking financial matters. And as Venus is going direct and she's aspecting Jupiter, you may be getting some answers. You may be getting some opportunities, right? Here you're looking at like resources of other people, partnerships, connections that can help you forward your artistic vision, or they can help you become a parent. You're maybe getting a loan to go through IVF, or your parent is giving you some money. There's some kind of ties or some kind of energy flow between finances of other people and your personal joy, right? This could also be you get the inheritance you've been waiting for, and that helps you take some time off to write your book. It's a square, so watch out for resources coming to you with strings attached, and, you know, sort of facing some harder sides of agreements and opportunities. But I think as long as you're mindful and careful and thoughtful, this could bring very exciting and eye-opening changes into your life. Let me know how this resonates down below, and how has your Venus retrograde been? Are you happy that it's over? If you are an Aqua rising, Venus in your 7th house is about to square Jupiter in your 4th house. And this is interesting, right? As an Aquarius rising, you had Venus retrograding in the house of relationships. So from talking to Aquarius rising clients, or from just hearing, from friends and people I know, there has been a lot of questions around love, around values, around self-worth, around things that you are interested in. So maybe your desire nature and your physical body has been brought up in question, right? Maybe you've gone through some kind of big transformation in your love life. And now as you are completing that cycle, right, Venus is moving direct through Leo, getting ready to move out of Leo, and now it squares Jupiter. You're getting to solidify that transformation in terms of your living situation. So maybe your relationship has gone through a change and now you're ready to move in with your partner, right? Maybe you're ready to invest into a home and buy a property together. Maybe you're ready to start a family, right? Because 4th house represents family and your family growing as well. With Jupiter in the 4th house, there's definitely some kind of big transformations there. And Jupiter in the 4th can also bring up some insights and deeper understanding around who you are and how your past can be impacting you, and how maybe your values and your relationship patterns are still being activated by your childhood, right? Like it's crazy, but no matter how old we are, we still a lot of times repeat things from the past and we face similar questions from the past. So there might be opportunities with this transit to reinvent, redefine, rethink your childhood, rethink your familial relationships, and maybe separate from what your family expects of you and become more authentic within who you are. Let me know how your Venus retrograde went. How are you feeling now that Venus is direct? Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, Venus in your 6th house is going to square Jupiter in the 3rd house. Venus has been retrograde in your 6th house between late July and early September, potentially making you question career matters, maybe making you wonder how to find more joy in your everyday life. Do some type of soul searching and question what kind of labors are worth your love and worth your energy, and what is truly kind of important to you versus what is just a time waster. And now that it squares Jupiter in the 3rd house, this is interesting because it could bring some kind of opportunities to change your work life. Maybe there is a chance to teach if you're trying to become a teacher. Maybe there's an opportunity to start a business. Maybe suddenly a space opens up in your neighborhood and you can no longer hide your true desires, right? You sort of have to act. So conversations, events around siblings, events in the neighborhoods, events in your community, a chance to write, a chance to speak in front of people, to kind of get more involved are all possibilities here, and can be they will require an adjustment. It's a square aspect, so there might be a chance of there might be a need to do some careful thinking, do some soul searching, right? Not that hard for you. You already have Saturn in the 1st house, so there's already some soul searching going on. But it's an interesting transit because it's, on some level, it could be literal, where you have physical things happening that affect your everyday life. But it could also be a bit more spiritual, because 3rd house deals with communication. It deals with how you talk to other people. Just a sec. And how you talk to yourself, right? Like, how do you spend your everyday life? Perhaps a mindset shift is in order, and perhaps Venus being retrograde in your 6th house has pointed out some flaws in your mindset. And Jupiter in the 3rd can also introduce opportunities to be more mindful, to be more joyful, to be more thoughtful and intentional about the way you move through your everyday life. This is it. Let me know how it resonated in the comments below. How was your retrograde? How are you doing now? Is September a better month than August? August has definitely been very complicated, very tough, I think, in some ways, especially at the end of the month with Venus and Mercury retrograde at once. I'd love to hear from you guys, so I hope to hear from you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.